Hi, this is Trending Recapped, and today I'm going to summarize a steampunk fantasy story where two brothers learn the secret behind alchemy and its connection to other worlds. Please beware that there are spoilers ahead in this video. Let's get into it. Inside a mining plant on an island, Alphonse Elric is talking with an unknown masked man. The masked man, Huskisson, tells him about the discovery of the ultimate element uranium and the uranium bomb, and requests to bring it to the attention of those at Central Command Center. Al refuses his request as it might bring about a war. Not happy with the refusal, he entraps and attacks Al with his machine contraptions. Then he checks the fallen armor only to find no one inside. Just then, Edward Elric makes his entrance from above the ceiling using alchemy. After a tedious battle, Huskisson performs the greatest taboo of alchemy, human transmutation, on a pile of dead bodies of miners who had died mining uranium. Huskisson disappears and appears before the Gate of Truth, a mysterious space between worlds. The gate opens and he is pulled inside by beings inside the gate. The whole island starts sinking after Edward makes some adjustments to the steam tanks which explode soon. Edward in another world is traveling with Alphonse Heidrich, his brother's look-alike from another world, who is sick with a cold. During their chat, Ed loses control of the vehicle and crashes into a tree off the road. With their vehicle crashed, both men get a ride on a truck full of gypsy women in the back who were also headed to the carnival. They also meet a gypsy woman, Noah, who is a fortune teller. She has visions of memories when she comes in physical contact with people. The women sing along the journey. Inside a house at the carnival, Noah and two other gypsy women from before are talking with a man in formal attire. Noah is confused and runs ahead to touch the woman. She finds out that she has been sold. Three men in military uniform come inside and check on her. The man in formal clothing asks for Lieutenant Haas, and one of the men tells him that Lieutenant is outside. When the man touches her, she has some visions and becomes scared. She runs outside hastily. Edward is helping Alphonse Heidrich with some stuff. After a while, he takes a break. Noah meanwhile is still running. Edward, who is resting on a carriage, is disturbed by the shaking of the carriage. By chance, Noah tries to hide in the same carriage. The three military men arrive and try to forcefully take her away. Edward, seeing this, interrupts them and a battle ensues. With the use of his mechanical arm and a rocket on the carriage, he chases the men away. At the central area of the carnival, Alphonse and his crew display the launch of a rocket to the people. They soon meet Lieutenant Haas, who plans to sponsor them to build some things. They are interrupted by one of the military men from before, who informs the lieutenant of their failure to capture the woman. Meanwhile, Edward and Noah are running ahead to find some shelter. At a party at the Four Seasons Hotel, Lieutenant Haas is reporting to an old man, Karl Hoshofer. They wanted to use Noah to find the location of the Great Serpent. The next morning, Alphonse Heidrich and Noah talk about Edward as they are having breakfast. Before leaving, Alphonse tells her about Edward's stories of another world to which the latter shows interest. Edward wakes up and places his mechanical limbs, which he had been using for 2 years since he had lost his powers and recovered limbs while traversing through the gate. He explains about them to Noah, who is curiously looking at him. Before leaving, she tells him about a vision where she saw his brother and mother. She asks him about his world and his reason for being here. Edward answers that his world and this world are mostly the same except for some names and places and the timeline. He explains he had lost his brother back in his world, and to bring him back to life, he had to come to this world. That was the price he had to pay. He also adds that he met Heidrich 2 years ago in Romania, and how his brother looks the same. Outside a bar, a couple of men are having a beer and talking about the state of the country. They are interjected by Hughes and also see Edward walking with Noah. Hughes warns him to be careful around gypsies. Edward disapproves and leaves with her. In a corner, Edward and Noah are having supper and conversing about her ancestry and birthplace. During their conversation, he sees King Bradley traveling in a car. Shocked, he chases after the car and ambushes them. He finds out that the person wasn't King Bradley, but a look-alike, a Jewish filmmaker named Fritz Lang. He is then requested to take the place of the driver he had knocked out. Inside the factory, Alphonse and his team are testing the product. Professor Karl is praising them for their work when a soldier comes to inform him that they have learned of the location of the Great Serpent. Lieutenant Haas and Professor Karl meet Dietland Eckhart, who is the chairman of the Thule Society. She orders Haas to take lead and tells the professor their nearing goal of entering into Shamballa, the world Edward came from through the Gate of Alchemy. The soldiers board the planes and leave. While the soldiers mobilize, Edward and Fritz Lang are traveling in a car towards the castle on the hill. The man requests to be called Mabuse and tells Edward that he is after a dragon. He persuades Edward to join him. When they reach the castle, they see men armed with rifles. Edward is handed a torch by one of the men. Through a dark tunnel, Edward and Mabius are conversing about the Dragon Zero. Mabius gives him a pistol, and the latter makes his way through steep stairs. Just as he reached the next floor, he is ambushed by the dragon who turned out to be the homunculus, Envy. As they are fighting, many aircraft appear and start firing at Envy. Soldiers start to drop from an air vessel. They restrain Edward and fire spears at the dragon. They successfully capture the dragon. Edward tells the professor that he is Hohenheim's son before being put to sleep by gas. Inside the air vessel carrying the dragon, the professor tells Haas about Edward. He is shocked at the revelation of another person safely traveling through the gate. The other one is his father, Hohenheim. At the professor's villa, Chairman Eckhart casts a transmutation spell on Envy's body, which is strung in a circle above a transmutation circle. He wakes up and bites Hohenheim, activating the circle with his blood. While this is happening, on Amstress, Edward's childhood friend Winry Rockbell travels to Dublin to meet Izumi Curtis and finds out that she had already passed away. She visits Izumi's grave where she sees a disheveled Wrath and offers to fix his mechanical limbs. In Lior, a portal opens out of nowhere, and the people inside are soldiers sent by the Thule Society. They have turned into monsters after traversing through the gate. Al, who had arrived at Lior, meets Alex Louis Armstrong and Rose, who resembled Noah from Earth. Al merges part of his soul with some of the armors and defeats the rest. The portal reopens and sucks the heap of armors, including the one with Al's soul merged. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Edward, who was looking for Professor Karl Hoshofer, finds information about the Thule Society and goes to the professor's villa. Seeing the villa heavily secured, he infiltrates through a broken window and gets a cut on his face from the broken glass. He walks into the room where he sees an incomplete transmutation circle. He completes it and activates it using his blood from the cut he got earlier. A portal opens, bringing back the armors from Amstress. Just then, Lieutenant Haas and the others arrive. After a short confrontation, Haas starts shooting at Edward. He dodges and hides in the heap of armor where he meets his brother Al in his armor form. They both decide to escape. Back inside the room, the lieutenant informs the director of them failing to capture Edward and suggests using Noah to gain information from his memories. After escaping, the brothers sit at the riverside and watch the night view of the town. Al mentions that he has no memory of things that happened after they transmuted their mother. His soul technique soon starts to dissipate, and before leaving, says that he would open a gate from the other side and bring him home. The next morning, Edward arrives at the house where Noah is making breakfast and Heiderich is reading the newspaper. He tells them about meeting Al, his brother, and the possibility of going home. Then, he gets a call from Mabius, who tells him to come to Ufa, Berlin, and hangs up. At the same time, in Amstress, Winry gets a call from Colonel Mustang. She informs him that Al and Wrath had left to go somewhere. They talk about the phenomenon and the possibility of Al and Wrath going to Central. In Ufa, Mabius shows Ed around his studio and the lizard that he is using in his movie. On the way to another set, Mabius talks about reading material about the possibility of parallel worlds. On the set, Mabius tells him about the relationship and hidden plots of the Thule Society and the Nazis. He tells Ed about their leader, Adolf Hitler, who is planning to start a war. Finally, he tells him about Edward's homeworld being dragged into this war. At the same time, Noah is brought by Hughes to meet Lieutenant Haas. Haas tells Noah, who is frantic, to calm down and listen to his proposal. Later, Haas and Chairman Eckhart talk about the uprising that's going to happen on the 8th of November. She tells him their plan to open the gate on the day of the uprising, to which Haas gets excited. At the factory, Heiderich and his team are nearly done building their rocket, which the Nazis had commissioned to be used during the uprising. While Noah and Edward are talking about the gate, Heiderich arrives and starts packing his stuff. Edwards tries to persuade him not to complete his work for the Nazis, but the latter refutes harshly. Suddenly, he starts coughing blood and tells them that he doesn't have much time left and leaves. At night, Noah enters Edward's room where he is fast asleep. She silently goes to him and reads his memories by touching his forehead with hers. On Amateurs, Winry and Sheska are heading towards the cemetery with bouquets each in their hand. Winry tells her that she is worried Al and Wrath are in the underground city, to which Sheska promises to tell her where the underground city is. Meanwhile, Al and Wrath have arrived at the underground city. On Earth, Edward and Noah enter a bar. The people there tell him that the country is being reborn and they are celebrating. At that instance, Hughes and Haas enter the bar. Noah silently walks towards Haas. Edward, who tries to stop her, is intervened by Hughes. He tells Edward that a war is starting and Noah is helping them. Everyone in the bar was supporting the Führer, Adolf Hitler, and they try to restrain him. At that moment, Mabius drives through the walls and Edward escapes with him. Inside the factory at Hoshofer's villa, Heiderich and his team have finished building the rocket. The ceiling opens and they see Eckhart, Professor, and Noah. Haas tells him that Noah is the key to opening the door to Shamballa. On the other side, Al is trying to open the gate with the transmutation circle but has no success. Just then, the homunculus Gluttony appears and attacks Wrath. On Earth, the Nazis are preparing for war. Edward jumps from a plane and arrives inside the villa. He tries to reason with them that what lies on the other side isn't Shamballa. At the same time, on Amstress, after a hard-fought battle, Gluttony traps Wrath in its mouth. Wrath, who is severely injured, tells Al to use him as a catalyst to open the gate. Al performs the transmutation spell. On Earth, the transmutation circle is activated. Edward tries to shoot Envy but stops after seeing his father in his mouth. He tries to save him but Hohenheim stops him. He explains that his reason for helping the Thule Society was to send Edward home. He sacrifices himself and opens the gate. Edward is devastated by his father's death. Eckhart shoots him on his artificial arm and he falls. She orders the soldiers to prepare to invade Shamballa. Heiderich straps him on a plane and sends him through the gate before being shot dead by Haas. Eckhart and her fleet are mutated by the children of the gate while passing through it. The mutation enables her to use magic. Edward crashes into the underground city and meets Al, Winry, and Sheska. After a brief reunion, they see Eckhart and her fleet fly into Amstress. Al feels guilty for opening the gate and runs off. Ed tries to follow but is prevented by his broken prosthetic limbs. So, Winry installs new ones for him. At the Central Command, the mutated soldiers are creating havoc and the soldiers are holding them off. Colonel Roy Mustang appears and gives individual orders. Ed finds and stops Al, who tries to transmute a dead child. Ed tells him that they need to stop Eckhart, to which Al agrees, and both set off to attack the warship. Roy creates a hot air balloon to directly attack the ship, then meets up with the brothers. They fight through the defense. Roy remains outside and the brothers head inside. After briefly fighting Edward, who can now use alchemy, Eckhart retreats and releases armored soldiers who turn against her due to Al placing parts of his soul within them. Ed sends Roy and Al back to the ground and tells them to destroy the portal in Amstress despite Al's protest. Ed pilots the ship through the portal back to the lab. Officer Hughes returns and informs Professor of the failed march against the government. Then the spaceship falls from the gate. Eckhart, covered in gate children, leaves the ship, heading towards Noah. She is shot and killed by Hughes. Then, Edward comes out from the ship and notices Noah, who is cradling Heiderich's dead body. A suit of Al's begins to talk. He finds Al within it, who claims to have climbed onto the ship at the last minute after telling Roy to destroy the portal. They decide to dismantle the portal together. After attending Heiderich's funeral and seeing off Noah, the brothers decide to go search for the uranium bomb. Are you a fan of FMA? Did you like this movie recap? If you did, give a like and smash that subscribe button to get more recaps and explanations like this one. Click here to watch similar movie recaps. The YouTube algorithm thinks you'll like them.